Hey folks, David here. Welcome. This is such a good episode. It was a real exciting and profound honor to speak with Béla Fleck, absolute legend of music. It's not just me who says this. He's got 19 Grammy Awards to his name. He's considered the foremost on his instrument, the banjo, and just recognized for expanding the vocabulary of the instrument, for bringing it into new genres, and just consistently over a career that spans, well, even since his first album under his own name in '78, it's just been one amazing project after another. So, let's sit down with Béla Fleck. Thanks for tuning in.
Nice glasses.
Thank you. I work at that.
That's what you're known for.
That's what my nose is for. How are you?
Good. Thanks for taking the time.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for including me.
So, I've been having well, first of all, I'll start the show. You're listening to NYC Radio Live. We are absolutely thrilled and honored to have Béla Fleck, who, if I was to introduce, we just run out of time. So I'll do it later. Quite a body of work. And just want to congratulate you. I mean, so much of your recent work in the last few years, I feel like is some of the best things you've ever put out. I'm crazy about the Beat Trio album. That's such an exciting project, and the My Bluegrass Heart album is not the Rhapsody in Bluegrass is another recent one. And then last few years the Chick Corea Remembrance. So
I've been very fortunate to be part of great music, and that's one of the things I think about when I'm, thinking about what I'm going to do. I have to feel like I'm part of something that's going to be good music, not just an opportunity to sort of play or show off or mark time. I want to be part of music that means something. And some of these people, these heroes like Chick and of course Zakir, just such a privilege to be part of their world and to learn from them and be part of the great musical legacies that they both had and have.
Yeah. So Zakir had been a little bit of a regular on this show because we focus a lot on Indian classical. And
sure.
One thing he shared was that he told our audience that what he did, which was bring the tabla into a million new places, something you might relate to, and different contexts, and also bringing different techniques. He said he couldn't really have pulled that off if he had stayed in India. And actually, it was George Harrison who, Zakir came on to be a jazz drummer, and George told him, "Hey man, stay with your instrument and bring that vocabulary onto your instrument," just like George did by bringing some of the Ravi Shankar concept onto his guitar. So I was just curious. I mean, as it's very equivalent to a lot of the musicians you play with, like Edgar and the Wooten Brothers, people who bring kind of transcend their instruments.
Right.
Like, were there similar voices that internal or external that could have held you back from kind of redefining the instrument and exploring so much? And was there some kind of guide like a George Harrison who kind of helped you along that path?
If anybody, it was Tony Trishka, who was my banjo teacher, and he just sort of flew the freak flag. He was going to be himself and be different. And he got a lot of crap from the bluegrass world. And of course, it's a very small provincial world, like the jazz world can be, where everybody argues about this and that. And, this guy isn't doing that, but nobody's buying each other's records either. It's like, you're on your own, pal. So, I mean, you live it because you love it and you do it, and hopefully you make progress and you do it better. But everyone has to find their own audience and develop their own world of people that give a shit about what it is you're doing.
Yeah.
And so, but I've always been very attracted to people who figured out how to do their own thing. And the Beatles are a great, example right there, because I grew up in the 60s, and those guys were always reinventing, dreaming big, coming up with crazy ideas. Of course, they had the resources at a certain point, but they also had to have the dreams and the visions. But I like the idea that it seemed like in the 60s and the early 70s, a musician's job was to grow, expand, become a better musician, transform, continue to, become more themselves and more unique as their life went on. That seemed to be what we were supposed to do. But in later years, that didn't seem to be the focus, of what being a musician was about. And maybe it was more about finding an audience. I don't know. It just seemed like those were golden years, those 60s, 70s, where the whole world just seemed to be expanding and everybody was trying. And even the Beatles, again, just since you brought up George, of course, I'm a huge Beatles fan since I lived through that and watched them do their thing. But every album could almost have been a different band at a certain point. And there was so much growth between 6 months, between the next thing coming out. And I always thought that's what you're supposed to do. But I also, I love uniqueness, things that are special and unique. And but they also have to have a charge to them. They can't just be unique in a void. They have to also have a positive charge of some kind. So like I heard Earl Scruggs play the banjo. I'd never heard anything like that. I had no context. I didn't know bluegrass, folk. I'm a New York City kid. I'm just like, I don't know what that is, but that is unbelievable. I don't know what that is. And I have had that experience listening to several other musicians. Like when I first heard Charlie Parker, I had the same thing. I don't know what that is, but that's incredible. When I first heard Chick Corea play, I don't know what that is, but that is turning there's a positive charge that is stoking me up and making me want to do something like that or be, expanded by it. I'm like the perfect target for their love missile.
Love missile. There's your next album. So, I mean, yes. I mean, same thing happened to me when I heard all those people, Charlie Parker, just all those things, Coltrane or whoever, just kind of reinvents the possibilities. But somehow you figured out a way to actually work it out onto your instruments and pull off these really ambitious projects. I mean, things that would give a lot of people just a straight up panic attack, like I direct a symphony orchestra or I got to do these Bach pieces.
Right. No, I do that. I get the I'm not worthy dance. And then I shut up and go do the work. And then we'll see, maybe I'm worthy, maybe I'm not worthy, and maybe I can only do it by overdubbing, or maybe but then a year later I can, because I spent that time working so hard on it. So I have learned to trust my instinct that if I like something and it's got a positive charge to me, usually there's something in it that means you can do this. But that's, sometimes you do it out of fear that you won't be able to do it until you do the work. Sometimes you do it out of love, just you're so excited by something that you can't put it down until you've unlocked the puzzle of, how to play through these chord changes or this rhythmic, turn or whatever it is. There's a lot of approaches.
But is there because this is something I think even non-musicians could gain something from somehow, you and the musicians you play with, the execution is always so consistently high, and it's and joyful, of course, and all that stuff. And so besides just the exploring and seeing what you love, is there philosophy? There's a daily approach or something like that that allows you?
There's standards. So in other words, for me, I have learned, and Chick Corea said this to me once. He said, I'll tell you the secret to playing, out stuff and making it work is if you play it as if you mean it and you play it with a lot of rhythmic power. Absolutely anything will work. But another thing you could say is that the better your technique is, the better the music is received. In other words, you don't have to try to figure out what the person is playing. You can tell what they're playing. And then there's a certain, percentage of the music that is about execution. It's like, okay, 20% of it is that it's just executed so well then people are going to give it more credence because it's played as if it was like really meant, because people respond to that sense of confidence. And so confidence is another word for technique, because you can only be confident if you have the technique to actually pull it off. Otherwise, it's false confidence and it doesn't deliver. But if you can play and so for me, and this is also where I met both Chick and I can't talk about Zakir without talking about Chick. They're my two magical heroes that I got to experience, in person quite a lot. We connected on rhythm with both of them. And when Chick got his hearing aids, he finally gave up the ghost and put in hearing aids. Boy, we really connected on rhythm. The first few years we played together, it was a little bit harder. And we was floating and finding each other. But later he started, he needed to start wearing hearing aids. And when he did, all of a sudden, wow, it was like the conversation I'd always wanted to have with him when it was happening. It was like here, it was always just such a great listener, such a great accompanist, almost knows what you're going to do before you've done it. Propels you just like a great jazz drummer is supposed to do, or piano comper, push you to the next, help you get to the next thing that you're trying to do. Maybe you don't know what it is, but maybe they can encourage you. Sometimes it's just like, yeah, keep going, and is what they're playing for you. Or sometimes they're just creating a bed that's so magical and rhythmically exciting, and yet leaving space for you on top of it that you're just simply inspired. And I've learned a long time ago that the better the people I am, the better people are that I play with, the better I play. And so I've learned not to be intimidated by people that have a lot more information than I have in certain areas. Like, for instance, I couldn't possibly become the Indian musician Zakir was as long as I tried, because he started at 2 years old and it's his whole life. I couldn't be the jazz musician that Chick Corea was, but I can be me, I can be me, and I can interact with them. We can find the areas where our different interests and our abilities intersect and meet on those and build out from there. And that's pretty much what I do with everybody. I mean, the secret is I just do the same thing. Whoever I play with, I just try to figure out how to make it sound complete, and I try to lock in and play strong and confident. And even if it's a slow piece, or it doesn't mean you don't play confidently when you're playing very evocatively too, but you have to play like you believe it, and you have to own it and get over yourself, your insecurities and worries about that you're not worthy, because the person that you're playing with isn't there playing with you because you're not worthy. They've decided that they think you're worth playing with. So now you just have to, be the person that they thought they were playing with and own it, So, because there's a very easy, I can go into student mode. I could have gone, Zakir, teach me. I will be your pupil. You can teach me. That wasn't why he wanted to play with me. It's for me to be his student. He thought I had something to offer that was interesting to him. That's not why Chick Corea wanted to play with me, so I could be his student. But my respect for them didn't hurt. They certainly understood how much I loved what they did and completely embraced what they both did.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said about Chick, because when I was listening to Remembrance, I felt like actually his defining quality is this something is his rhythm and
Yes.
this precision and confidence, and it's just like there's like a presence. It's like charged with this like focus.
It is, and his technique was great, obviously, but he also had his own language that he had kind of created. And you listen to it, it's Chick Corea within 3 seconds. If I'm listening to jazz radio and different piano, wishes he was Chick Corea, wishes he was Chick Corea, Chick Corea. And same thing with Herbie. There's other piano players. Obviously, Herbie's on the very, and Keith are on that level of originality and being so strong in who they are that it translates, and it instantly. So I tend to play with people like that are the person that sounds like that. Victor Wooten is like that. Future Man is like that. Edgar is like that. Jerry Douglas is like that. Chris Thiele is like that. So many of the people I play with have their own voice. Edmar Castaneda, he's like that. There's no one else. And it's kind of fun to be in a club full of people who are like weird iconoclasts. Everyone has to be like a bit of a entrepreneur, because nobody really believes that what they're going to do is going to work. like, oh, banjo player and playing jazz and classical music, impossible. So I'm like, I have to figure out how to get this to happen, because I want it to happen and work my way up, build my way up to where people will give me a chance to try some of the things I want to do. And then I have to be good enough to do them that they want to do it again, and then I can build on that. But that's where the technique becomes really important. And so, I do a lot of metronome work, not to be a metronome, but to be in command of rhythm and to listen to something beside myself, be used to playing my instrument with something besides myself, because that attention that I'm using to listen to the metronome, now when I play with Zakir, I'm going to be using it to listen to him. And I want to lock it. When I play with the metronome, I want to be as locked as possible, like I was with Tony Rice and Sam Bush playing guitar and rhythm, guitar and mandolin. They locked like it was like an impossible lock to break. It was so powerful. And so I just want to have the tools to lock with people from different musical worlds. And it tends to work better with people that have a forward lean. So in other words, maybe it's not as easy for me to play with, it wasn't as easy for me to play with like Jack DeJohnette and Ron Carter and McCoy Tyner when I got to record with them, because they're more, it wasn't that I'm a bad jazz player. It was also that we weren't the right fit. You know what I mean? So with Chick, because of his tight rhythm, we were the right fit. And so what I did worked better. It wasn't that we didn't find something to do when I got to record for McCoy, but it wasn't a natural fit that someone with a forward rhythmic lean that's slightly either metronomic or speeding up a little bit, or Latin music, where Indian music has a tendency to go, to go forward. Although now the new Indian musicians are more, connected to, absolute time or metronomic time because of drum machines and the way a lot of musicians practice now to absolute time. So their timing locks in. And if you play a lot with the metronome, you find someone else plays a lot with the metronome, you find a much easier way of locking in to each other because you've got something in common, that just a pulse that's exact.
Yeah. One thing I was watching, talk about a band that's locked. I was watching the Telluride sessions, which is, that's as locked as you can get. And a couple of things jumped out at me about your.
Are you talking about Strength in Numbers or?
Strength in Numbers, yeah.
Right.
One of the most ridiculous groups ever. But one thing that was so interesting to me, and I've seen you do this before, is like Marco, the whole band will be like blazing, high energy, and Mark O'Connor will pass the baton to you, and you are able to have like the presence or something, the confidence to open it up and let some space and bring it down.
Yeah.
That, knowing that, like, if I had as much firepower than you as you do, and someone pass it on to me, my instinct would be like, keep going.
Well, that would be a perfectly reasonable thing to do.
Yeah.
I would advise a player to not to do the same thing on every solo. Like if you're going to bring it down after Mark's solo on this song, maybe on the other song, you carry it on to the next level. But he's a hard guy to follow, so you might want to give yourself a little headroom. Yeah.
Well, more I'm asking about the confidence to not, like, even the way you when you're performing, you don't like sell yourself you're not like, it's almost like a Zen thing to me. It's like
it is.
You do the opposite. It's like I forgot Jack
like
Benny doing comedy. He doesn't do anything.
You have to hold yourself back a bit because, and Victor and I have talked about this a lot, is our tendency is to overplay. So if you try to play nothing, you're probably going to play something pretty good rather than trying to play something. You know what I mean? So in a Zen way, it would be like, try not to do anything and see how far you get, because eventually you're going to rise to the bait and you're going to be fighting and pounding away and playing, because we all have this killer instinct from performing for so long. And we think on some level we're hardwired to do that. But my least favorite thing anyone ever says is, "Oh man, you're a shredder on that banjo." Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's the last thing I ever want to hear. It's like, I find that offensive. And a lot of younger players don't understand why I find that offensive, because in their world, shredding isn't necessarily, a bad thing. But for me, it means what you're getting into about my playing is just that I can play really, really fast, or shredding almost always seems to go with some tasteless element, which I am. That's why I don't like being called it. I have that. I am hardwired to do that, because after things get to a certain point, I am going to be blazing, and I can do that in certain settings. But I always like I'm proudest of myself when I learn to leave space and play with space. Do I do that enough? No. Do I wish I'd do that more? Yes. But I'm usually the happiest with myself when I'm actually able to breathe and play like I would if I was playing with no audience, like what I thought was good music. And again, that's what I want. I want to be part of good music, and I don't want to be the person that drags it into the gutter either. And instrumental music can be that. It can be incredibly smarmy, jivey. It can be incredibly idealistic. It can be incredibly intellectual and leaves so many people behind that it's almost pointless for the larger number of people. But it's an incredible achievement. I've always liked the music to actually connect with people. I always feel like I'm like simplify complicated ideas down enough that regular people are not repelled by them. And part of it is the banjo has sort of a friendly connotation. You hear something complicated on the banjo, it's not maybe as overwhelming as hearing like Eric Dolphy do it, or somebody that has a more abrasive sound, or on an instrument that we're used to, doing that. There's a little bit of a what do you call it's a surprise. I wasn't expecting the banjo to do that. Now, what if I could get people interested in my music because of the things I'm doing that are unusual, but they're only going to stay with it if the music actually moves them. Otherwise, it's going to be like a one-click thing. Oh, isn't that amazing? Look at that guy. Oh, I never heard of that. Okay, next. But if you actually hook them with something, this is what works about being someone who plays an instrument that's not typical, is if you can get people to come look at you, and then you actually play something musical. And you've got something. You've got something, and you've connected with somebody that actually might stick with you and care about your music, that what you're actually trying to do, which is more than just blaze on an instrument. That's just a piece of. Not that it isn't fun, and not that there's anything wrong with it, but if that's your whole motivation, it can be pretty suspect.
Yeah. So speaking of,
Zakir never did that. I mean, no, that's not fair. Zakir he had that same rise to the bait thing where he was going to kill you at the end of the solo, but he wasn't in any hurry to get there, unless the clock was ticking, in which case he could say, how long do I have? I see the curfew. I have 2 minutes and a half. I'm going to build a solo in this last 2 minutes and a half that is going to go from here to here and end, and I'm going to be looking at the clock, and when it's done, it's going to be the most perfect architectural achievement of the 21st century. It's like that's his brain was working from a distance and calculating, and all this firing was going off, and it ended up with all these formulas and all this math and all this musicality and a perfect ending. And he did it over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, a friend of mine took Ornette Coleman to see some Indian music, and he said, "Wow, they're really all about the one."
Yeah, right.
And it's true. They could look so far down, that it's all, especially Hindustani, that they can plan that arc. And
yeah, it's like backspacing. You have to backspace everything. So if you have a rhythmic progression that is in 4/4, and you started on the the ninth beat, and then it takes you the last 8 beats to get you to 16. But if you change to 7/8, then you need to start it. You can use the exact same progression, but you just need to start it in a different place in the 7 bar, right? You need to start it on 6, I think. Now, my mind doesn't work like his, and like Indian musicians, but his mind could work that way, and he could show you where to start it. Anything. They have all of these Indian pieces where there's a silent beat in the middle of the whole thing. You're playing, and then everybody leaves the space, and you're shooting. And what sounds like the downbeat is the 3rd beat. It's not the 1st beat, So it's a oversimplification to say Indian music is all about the one. Although that's a huge part of it. Is how much can I do and still inevitably land on that one, and land this thing. But Zakir was so much more than that, because he figured out how to interact with a lot of music that had nothing to do with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was really influenced by congueros and everything. It all went in there.
Yeah, and that's like you said, him moving to him marrying Tony and living in Marin and being part of the Grateful Dead orbit, and then his connection with Mickey Hart, and then his connection with Planet Drum and all these drummers from different parts of the world, and Giovanni, and all this stuff. By the way, he's the person who introduced me to Antonio Sanchez as well. So
oh wow,
yeah. But yeah, he he got a lot out of, but he didn't never lost his essence. His essence didn't get watered down. If anything, it got even stronger.
So one thing I think is a great accomplishment is your the Throw Down Your Heart album and the movie, and I think a lot of people discovered Baseku and Omar Umu Sangare, and all those people. And I was just curious, I imagine that when you came to Africa, all musicians have a concept of what Africa is going to be, and I was curious what surprised you. What was the difference between what you thought that experience might be and what it was?
I've used this analogy before, and I don't know if it's any good, but it's the idea that I knew what I was getting. A lot of these musicians, I had the recordings. I knew intellectually what I was going to find there. I knew the accounting players. I'd watched videos of these guys. I had gone through musicians' catalogs to find songs that I thought would be good to work on. It's like knowing you're going to go get a great meal at a restaurant. And knowing is not enough. You have to actually go eat that meal and experience that meal in person to have eaten at a great restaurant. It doesn't matter how good the restaurant is. For me, I knew that the musicianship was going to blow me away, that I was going to be inspired, that I was going to learn a ton. But the real experience was being in the same airspace with these people and reacting in real time to each other. And that couldn't be done from a distance. That had to be done in person, so, but aside from that, I don't know. And people ask me, what did you learn? It's like, I don't know. I played 30 pieces over the course of, 35 days of traveling and performing and working with people. And some pieces I had the chance to learn, and be prepared for, or like, we're going to do this tomorrow. I better spend all night and, working on banjo tabs so I can figure out how to actually play this thing with this guy. Other things I had to play as a free jazz player that had no idea what was going to come next and just play spontaneously and see what happened because I didn't have time to learn it. What did I learn? I don't know. I don't know what I learned. I got to play and interact with a ton of people, and everything that I played with those people is now in Béla gumbo land, musical gumbo land. The things I learned from Chick, the things I learned from Zakir, the things I learned from African musicians, the things I learned from Irish musicians, the things that, they all end up in this poorly mixed gumbo. It's not puree. There's, more of this here and more of that there. So when you dip into it later on to get something out of your gumbo, you don't know, you might get 3 parts Indian and 26 parts, Latin, and then 58 parts bluegrass, and it just comes out how it comes out, so it's part of the whole mix. But I didn't walk away. I couldn't become the African scholar I wished I could have become. I haven't been the Indian music scholar I wished I could become. I haven't been the jazz scholar that I wished I could become, because each one of those things is a whole lifetime. I don't have that kind of time. I never did, because I wanted to do too many things. So instead, I play a role like an actor. I'm going to be an Indian musician. That means I'm going to bust my ass to play this music as good as I can. I'm going to learn the material we're doing till I can, deliver something serviceable. I'm going to keep on soaking it up, do the best I can, and then next month I'm going to go do that with something else. And I felt that was my role, in the banjo, continuum, was to point the way. Someone else can come back and be the jazz musician I wished I was, or the Indian musician on the banjo that I wished I was. But I'm more, my role is to sell the idea that all these things are possible. Because I love the instrument, even though there's no cultural reason for it in my family, or I'm a Yankee, I'm not part of it. And part of it is also the sense of wanting to right wrongs and perceptions that are just not true, like about the banjo, which is like Southern white instrument only, hillbilly, deliverance, rape scene, male rape scene, hee-haw. And instead of saying, hey, wait a second, the banjo actually comes from Africa. This is an instrument played by Black people. Well, what are you doing playing jazz? Well, banjo was in jazz when jazz started. When Louis Armstrong and Jelly Roll Morton were playing their music, there was a banjo front and center. It was right in there. There was a lot of times there wasn't piano. There was a banjo. There was no guitar yet. So a lot of people just have it wrong. And so I, because I'm an outsider to the bluegrass world, I guess maybe it was important for me to sort of set the record straight and say, hold on a second, everybody has a right to this instrument because it's truly an American instrument that came from other places, and all kinds of people's influence has turned it into what it is, even though a lot of people are hardwired to believe that it's this one thing, this bluegrass thing, or this old time, white Southern thing. Now, the other thing I always have to say, I hope it doesn't get cut out, is that is some of the greatest music ever. That white Southern music, the Stanley Brothers, Flatt and Scruggs, Bill Monroe, it is some great music. So I'm not ashamed of that part of it. It's not that I'm taking anything away from it. It's just that there's a lot more to the story, and it's all good. It's all poignant. There's some real poignancy to the African piece of it, which is probably the biggest piece.
Was that part of your drive when you put together the Flecktones, to kind of just say anything's possible?
Yeah, I mean, it was also important to me to step out, like for the banjo to be recognized outside of the bluegrass lens. And so for me, I was signed to Warner Brothers. They wanted me to be on the country label. I didn't want to be on the country label. I said, I'll only sign if the jazz department in LA and New York will work the project, because that's the reverse of what I'm trying to do here by leaving Newgrass Revival, I was in, which was like top band of the progressive bluegrass world. I was at the peak of the top of that world already. And I didn't want to just, I wasn't trying to do bluegrass band. I was trying to bring the banjo out and kind of be who I really was, which is this New Yorker who loves all kinds of music. So the Flecktones was my chance to really do that for the first time, and in a profound way, because it was so much more than just about me and what I was trying to do. There were 4 people. And again, you take that from the strength in numbers. That was my idea, calling it strength in numbers, because Sam Bush could draw 300 or 400 people. I could draw 300 or 400 people. Edgar could draw 300 or 400. Mark O'Connor could draw. But if you put us all together, we could draw 2,000 people. And so I love the idea of equals that are working together to make great music. And bluegrass is a great template for that, because, even with Bill Monroe and Flatt and Scruggs, everybody in the band is featured equally. Everybody is important. So anyway, that's just, I'm on a babble here, but that's kind of.
No, it's deep stuff, and I appreciate it. Let me know. Do you have to split?
I do have to get going, because I have a half an hour to rehearse for something tomorrow with my wife. Who just walked in. Sweet. But I could keep going, but I think you got anything. How about one more question? And I'll try
to. Sure. Well, yeah. I mean, I was just thinking. I went back and I watched that Flecktones one of the live concerts in Germany, and one of the things that was so incredible to go back to that group is you keep pulling magic tricks out of your hat. Like, it's not until the encore till suddenly now you're playing vibes. Through the MIDI, you're playing vibes, and those guys are swinging. Yeah. I mean, Future Man is swinging on that instrument, So, I mean, I don't know what the question is, but I guess it's just an observation that.
Well, again, it comes down to technique. Like, those guys are so good that anything they do is good. So suddenly it's not about whether the idea is good, it's whether the musician is good. You know what I'm saying? So that's the trick, is because they're basic. They have a feel, they have a groove, they have good taste, they get good sounds out of their instruments. They know what swing is, they know what not swinging is. They're open, but they have a perspective. So they're not like anything's okay. No, it's got to be good. What we think is good has to be a piece of this. It's not everything's fine. The limitations are part of what make things great. But yeah, I mean, I think sometimes people are just really good, and Victor and Future Man, Howard, Jeff Coffin, are all really good. So when they play music, they make it good. Chick Corea, whatever he played, it was going to be good because he was good. I can't say that about myself, but I Zakir, the great players that I think about, they all play with their heart and soul, and they're good. Yeah. So they can make anything work.
Yeah. Well, you can't say it about yourself, but I can say it about you. I mean, you really, especially the classical stuff, You brought a lot. You played that with a lot of life and buoyancy. All that, the box arrangements and all that stuff. So,
Thank you. So that's about rhythm, because sometimes a person outside of the classical world will play with a different rhythmic concept, and it can make music fresh and new again. Because if you're hearing it with a different point of view, and I think maybe that was helpful. Because the music I was attracted to when I was making a classical album was music that did have a pulse and did have a rhythm that I could attack, kind of like the way I play other stuff, which is why I say it's still just me being attracted to the kinds of things I like, which is I like the motor, I like the rhythm, I like the rhythm moving. But I also have to be good at not playing that way too if I want to be a total musician,
Well, thanks so much for your time. We'll see you at
David. Thank you.
We'll see you at Tony Trischka's show in April as well.
Oh yeah, you're gonna be there? Great.
Yeah. Actually, I love Zoe. Do you know his daughter, Zoe?
Oh yeah, I love Zoe. Yeah.
Everybody loves.
She's a doll. Yeah, the whole family.
Cool. Thanks for your time. Thanks for all your dedication to music. We appreciate it.
Thanks for talking about it and helping spread the word. Appreciate it a lot. Okay.
All right,
see you next time.
Take care.
Bye bye.